Thank you, Robert.
Hey, Joanne, this is Sal. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I was going to say good morning. First of all, good morning. Did you see your name on the list to do, I think it was greeter or the work the table?
Yeah, in October. I put it on my calendar already.
Excellent. Okay, because if you can't make it, just let me know, but I appreciate it.
No. I have to get something done before I go to work, and I won't be able to get it done if I come to the meeting. So nope,
Okay.
I have it on my calendar. I saw it. Thank you for reminding me.
Thanks, Joanne. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too.
Hey, Wade. Wade,
Yeah,
this is Bob. I have a question. Does the link change from week to week for Zoom? Because I tried to get on the Zoom link you sent from last week and it wouldn't work, but the one you sent from this week seemed to work okay.
so the answer to your question is that it was changing around, but we now have an official Emmaus Rotary Zoom account. So Eric set that up. So this link that we're using this week should be the permanent link now.
Great, that's all I needed to know. That makes life easy. I put a shortcut on my desktop and it goes right to it.
Yeah, so this one that we're using today should be the one from now on.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so Jeff, we'll make it up. Yes. I was worried about it.
You weren't there.
Yeah. So Saturday was, we had only run a certain kind of petrol. And then it was like engaged operable. Like, okay, so you have a limited amount of options and you have no idea how to get out.
Well, you fill up the tank. Right, but fill up the tank, so you know it's full. And then look at the mileage. My motorcycle doesn't have a so what happens is you fill it, set zero. Once you get to 100 miles, yeah.
Hello, Alicia. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, John.
Morning, Sal, Joanne, Carol, John, everybody.
Hi.
Morning, Alicia.
Alicia, how are you feeling?
Yeah, we're not dying. Read our.
Good morning.
Good morning, Carol.
Just remember to turn your headset switch on, speaker should be good.
Yeah. Friend of mine is that's the scenario. Well, that's where hurricanes start, right?
Fancy fingers.
That's the one development.
Morning, Mayor's Rotary. I told our presenter it's about 30 minutes, so we're gonna get going here. Red old flag. See that our invocations, let's start. The day is with Jean. Jean, oh, you're here. There you are. Good morning.
As we gather here today, let us give thanks and think of the good that brings us here. Let us remember who we are and why we are here. Let us always be kind and honest. Let us always do good at all times. Let us always give our very best. With the words of Mother Teresa, let us always spread love everywhere we go. Let no one ever come to us without leaving nothing. With the words of Mahatma Gandhi, let us always be the change that we wish to see in the world. With the words of Prophet Muhammad, let our wealth be the good we do in this world. And with the words of Ellen G. White, that our will, defined and sanctified, finds its highest delight in doing service. Let us continue to give to another here in Rotary and turn it off the meeting.
Please be seated. Good morning, everyone. Great to see everyone here. This morning, it's a welcome relief at hot summer we had. So let's start today with a trumpet test. I told you there'd be a test. Your assignment was to read the, well, guests are Rotarian. Sal, any guests are Rotarian? We have guests. I know we have a speaker. Carol is up here. Say hi to our folks on Zoom today. I see Courtney, Joanne, Sal. John Chishka has a friend with him today. Then there's Bob. Who else do we have? And Alicia is here. Good morning, Alicia. Always good to see you. Any visiting Rotarians or other guests here today? I didn't see anyone I didn't know today. So, okay, we're taking care of that. All right, so trumpet test today. In the trumpet, each week, I put a saying of some sort. So the saying caught my eye, you know, a little sentence that kind of says it all. Who can tell me the essence, I don't have that word for word, who can tell me the essence of that saying at the top of the president's message? No, not till we see. Raise your hand. Wade, you're in charge of whoever raises their hand first. What did it say? Oh, this is very sad. Okay, it starts with attitude.
Attitude.
Mike, Mike, I copied and pasted it on chat.
All right, I'll see it.
Okay.
Give me a second.
No, you can't bring it up now. There's no cheating on this test. All right, so, oh, Ashley?
Attitude is different.
Okay.
Here's another guy.
Okay. And Ashley, you still owe me a book, by the way. I haven't forgotten that. You have my book. Okay, attitude is the difference between an ordeal and an adventure. Okay, that's how I approached the presidency. To not make this presidency an ordeal. I'm looking at it as an adventure. Okay. Okay, now here's the best part. What was the name of the author? There's a reason why I picked it. So the reason why Truly, why I-
Charles Dickens, he wrote everything.
No, it wasn't Charles Dickens, it wasn't Shakespeare. I'll give you a hint, the initials are VB.
Better Business Bureau.
No, geez. Okay.
Britney Spears.
The name, now you gotta listen to this in the back and read it. The name of the author was Bob. Okay, I apologize. Bob Bitchin, yes, you got it. Bichin or Bichin. Yeah, Bob Bitchin. I would love to have a name like that going through life. Anyway, okay, so Sue, I'll give you one of those. I don't know why you remember that, but okay, I'll move along here, sorry. My announcements, club assembly next week. We're gonna I'm asking Nicole and Karen are gonna talk about Make a Difference days and make sure they're signed up for that. Roger Whitcomb has, remind me of this soon later, 5 minutes to talk about the upcoming centennial. We are only 5 years away from the centennial. We've got to start talking about it. And who's the other one? Fellowship is going to do a program. That program, we're going to talk about fellowship and do a fun activity at the end of it. Thank you, Meg. Okay, club assembly. Again, we're up tonight. Cindy, Wade, and I are up at 8 Oaks Distillery. Somebody has to go there to be part. And Ashley, you're probably going to be there too, aren't you?
Dawn?
Really? I didn't. That's great.
That's tonight.
That is tonight, 5:30 to 7:30. And we're going to be meeting people from the chamber, talking to them about Rotary, not just Emmaus Rotary, but several other clubs. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a nice evening. And I'm happy to see so many people up here on Zoom today. This is great. This is what we have it for. Anybody who has any concerns, please be up on Zoom. The link is always in the trumpet. Okay, club announcement. Marker, what do you want to say about the poker round?
Well, I want to give a big thank you to.
Absolutely.
I want to give a big thank you to all the participants and the volunteers that helped out pull this event together. We had a bit of a disappointment in that we had more volunteers than participants in the run. And we're well in the black. We had several notable winners of the prizes within our club and external. Karen Hobson had the coolest ride in her. And the best poker hand was won by Don Palmquist. And then the 50-50 raffle was won by our own Rose GP.
Whoa,
And all of these individuals, gave the money back or a good portion of it because they believe in the cause. So we're very thankful for them as well. I am still making up the list, but the number of volunteers is now up to 20. It might be a little bit higher. When I have that final list, I'll share it. Just put something in the trumpet. We should end up somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000 raised for sales of valor. Again, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for your very hard work, and let's see if we make it more successful, even more successful next year. Karen or Nicole, you want to say anything about Make a Difference days?
Sure. Make a Difference Day, 16th of October, which is a Saturday. There's plenty of tasks up on the Sign Up Juniors, which is in the trumpet each week. So there's several times that you could help, and if you come to me as well, I can always slot you into a task. We do have the following weekend after that, the 23rd, which we will be doing something up at Zion's Lutheran Church, which we've done before, which is putting together a meal for the rescue mission men and making a few meals for the Turning Point ladies. So we will start to get that done. Yep, so please sign up. That's it.
Great, thank you. The sign up link has been in the trumpet, and I think there was an individual email for that. And a reminder of the challenge to everyone, to the club. if we get 4, Don, just make sure I have this right now, I tried to put it correctly in the trumpet. 40 different members are involved in at least one service project of the at least 6 or 7 that we have. I changed it arbitrarily and capriciously. I make a difference days because there's actually several different. It goes in more than just October 16. It goes to Miracle League and prepping for the rescue and so on. So 40 different people. I will give out tickets. I'm negotiating with what's his name? Raymond Hammond. Who's it does the Rotary stuff?
Russell. Oh, yes.
Thank you, Russell Hammond. I'm negotiating with them to make a special ticket. We'll put them in. I'm going to draw 2, and I'll buy breakfast for those 2 of you. You can't win twice, by the way. There's another clarification. You can't win twice. You can only get 1 free breakfast. I'm sorry, I got to split it around.
I just made a comment about Make a Difference Day. It's also a really great way to invite friends and family to join us in the Rotary activity and help us build our membership. So please extend the invitation to other people who might be interested in serving the community. You can also share the Sign Up Genius link on your Facebook page. The last time we did a the packing for Turning Point, a friend of mine saw that I had shared it and she brought shampoos here that day. So you never know who's going to be interested in stepping up and helping out. Even if maybe they're not someone who necessarily joined Rotary, they can still help us. And then they talk about Rotary with someone else. That is a fun
idea. Thank you, Megan. Yes. Cindy.
Don't forget Saturday is the Purple Pinky Race. I know Alexa isn't here today. I believe we have a team of 8 people. Could you raise your hand if any of you here are going? I know Dean and Gary are going. Nobody else? If you still want to come, it's really fun because after that, we're having an October Fest. So you can still register if you want to call me. I'm not sure who all the 8 people are, but I have to take registration. So when you get there, just find Dean and Gary and we'll, coordinate if that's okay. Thank you.
Other club announcements. There's a DEI meeting immediately following our meeting today. We're going to be right in here somewhere. Other club announcements?
Yeah, I might. I'm also collecting money for the candy that we'll be giving out for Miracle League, which is 27th of October. For candy, so I don't mind going out and buying candy. Somebody wants to give me candy. Yes, absolutely, you can give candy, but just make sure it's single pieces, single servings. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I see Ralph Lewis is here. Next week is Food for the Needy. I thought it was today. I have it in my. Oh, Ralph, go.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Morning,
First thing, I'm happy to be back from Hilton. I had my vacation in Hilton with family and enjoyed it. Secondly, as Mike said, I'm going to be here and I'm going to collect food for the Emmaus Food Bank next meeting. So, Sal, if you remember to put it in the trumpet, I'll appreciate it. And thank you all for participating.
Thank you, Ralph. Thanks to Cindy, Val, Courtney for this, what we're handing out tonight, this new handout brochure. We haven't had anything really to use. It's been updated. I think this one we could update a little bit more, but we have at least 100 to use tonight. I'll pass this one around. Many thanks to them. We need something. If we want to find members, we got to be able to give them something in their hand that has the contact information and so on. So thank you. All right, greeter, raffle time. Greeter, oh, Gary, yep.
All right, first of all, I want to mention that Roger and I have been going through Emmaus Rotary Club artifacts, and one of the things that we found is the charter, the original charter, when Emmaus Rotary Club was granted from Rotary International in 1926, and I have it out there. I guess several of you have gotten a chance to see it, but anyway, we're making big plans for our 100th anniversary. And so now, as far as the greeter, we have one prize, and there's about 60 tickets in here. So I think there's more tickets that are left over. So since Sue was the person that knew who Bob, what was his name? Richard, Bob Richard was, I'm gonna let her pick. You might do a lot of picking. I'm guessing it's gonna take at least 3 until we find one that someone here has. Okay.
Here, I'll help you out. Here's what, I'll give you mine.
Okay, all right, 6969. Last 4 digits, huh? Okay. Go again.
Last three numbers.
Okay, the last 3 numbers are 950.
Yeah, last week's numbers. In your exercise, you said.
Okay, 973.
How about if you're close? Is that- At this point, that's where we're at.
Okay, 997.
Gee, that's quite a spectrum of numbers.
This might take a while. 990.
Getting closer there.
This doesn't make any sense.
There were a lot there.
Yeah, there are a lot. All right, 988.
Well, that is me.
All right. Thanks, goodness. Glad you won.
Thank you.
All right, Sergeant at Arms, you're up.
Happy it only took 16 tickets to get there. That was good.
So again, I want to remind people the process when you come in is sign your name, right, Larry? Okay, sign your name, pay your money, pick up your badge. It's a simple process, but each week I count the number of people and I count the names, and it's almost always off, just like me. They hired you for that. So the first one, I'm gonna pay a fine because I will be leaving early today. Okay? Double, yes. Some people were late today, but she did manage. It was a great invocation. I loved it. So I'm just gonna go right to Happy Dollars. I think somebody was missing a pin, but I'm not gonna say any names. Go ahead, Joe.
All right, so I got $5 happy, came back Tuesday from almost 3 weeks in Italy. Started in the northwest corner by France and made my way down to the southeast corner on the beach. And so I gained a few pounds, lost a few brain cells, and that's usually a sign of a good time. So, and it wasn't too difficult to get there to come back. You just had a test negative for COVID. And I saw Megan's twin in Italy. And when I first saw her, I said, "Gee, Megan, what are you doing here?"
Good to have you back.
Great time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to be back.
I have $1 hoping that my husband makes it to Heathrow this morning, well, this afternoon. He has just enough gas in his car, his hire car, to make it. The gas has been terrible to try and get in.
Is he gonna make it back?
Well, he's just got to make it to Heathrow.
Oh, okay. All right.
And my son has also returned from Portugal, so that's very nice. So yeah, $2.
Let's go with two. Yep.
All right.
Fred.
I'd just like to make a remark about the Lions Club. Their flea market is coming up. Make sure you mark your calendar, bring your money and show up at Community Park.
All right.
Which day?
What is the date? I think it's the. What is it?
It's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up very soon.
Coming up soon.
Yeah.
It's in October.
Next week, have a few more details.
And then a few more Happy Dollars would be fine. Anything else in Happy Dollars? Anybody in virtual land? Ralph does? Oh, that weight is blocking me. Go ahead, Ralph.
I got $5 happy. Last week, of course, I was not at the meeting last week because I was at Hilton Head and had a reunion with my family, and we had a great time, and so I'm very happy.
Gee?
My son graduated high school this year and joined Penn State. And joined the soccer team. So, and you're doing well.
By the way, a very big, nice round of applause for Wade George, who is putting on a lot of mileage today without Eric here. He's doing it all. So a nice round of applause. Somebody steps up to do something. So, Megan, you're up.
Okay. Thanks, Wade.
Yeah, no problem.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone on Zoom. Good to see your faces. So this morning we have our guest speaker is Carol Ferguson. She is the Polio Plus coordinator for our district and a member of the Doylestown Club. She is a polio survivor. In 1954, Glenside, PA. That's when she was a survivor of polio. Carol founded, 1954 Glenside, PA. Carol founded the PA Polio Survivors Network in 2014. She's now connected with survivor Rotarians all over the world, and she says it's amazing. So this is going to be a really great presentation covering some parallels of what we're experiencing now and what people have experienced through the polio vaccine and everything. So we'll leave time for some questions for Carol as well at the end. So I'll hand it over to Wade and Carol so we can have our Zoom presentation virtually, which is really cool because now we can do virtual presentations with literally anybody in our district, in our country, in our world. So thanks, Carol.
Okay, Carol, go ahead. Carol, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I did, didn't I?
All right, we hear you now. That's great.
Yeah. Okay, good. That was a nice invitation. I got to tell you, your club is so supportive of the Race to Zero. This is really fun for me to do today. I'm going to hopefully, when I'm done, there's going to be a lot of questions. That's the idea. Today comes from a very personal place. And to introduce myself a little bit, give you a clue of where I come from. On March the 6th, I got my second COVID vaccine and I cried. And the young man who gave it to me said, "Did I hurt you?" And I said, "No, absolutely not. I am overwhelmed with gratitude. I got the brand new Salk vaccine 1 year too late." We're going to talk about polio. It's a deadly and permanently disabling virus that has absolutely no cure. We're going to talk about the truth behind this terrible disease and the beautiful power of vaccines. In 2014, our team began our journey bringing forth information about managing the lifelong disabling effects of the polio virus. We're an all-volunteer team of 9, 4 of whom are polio survivors. Our mission is very simple. We use the values of the 4-way test to help us serve all polio survivors and their caregivers. We provide information from credible sources so they can once again help themselves. We share a passionate connection with Rotary International and their partners to stop polio in its tracks. Because of this enormous effort, polio will soon be the second disease in history, smallpox being the first, to be eradicated by the effective use of vaccines. This is the basis for our dedication to support Polio Plus. Rotary and their partners in the Global Polio Eradication Initiative are tireless in their efforts to focus on disease prevention by vaccinating every child that can be. The infrastructure that's being created as a result is unmatched in public health. We asked survivors to join us in celebrating our gratitude for Rotary International's determined effort to eradicate this terrible disease. The response that we thought was going to come from Pennsylvania and New Jersey was global. These words are meant for you. These words are meant for all Rotarians. These moving words came from more polio survivors than we can even begin to count. Rotary's effort in the area of disease prevention is much bigger than just polio. This might sound odd coming from us, but as a result of what we've learned, we've discovered that we're much bigger than polio too. Yes, we're experiencing the lifelong effects of the polio virus, but of greatest importance, we are survivors of what is now a vaccine preventable disease. So just exactly what is this disease that Rotarians hear so much about? You're very capable of reading this clear CDC definition yourselves. But we have another adjective to describe it. Polio stinks. It's a lousy, lousy disease. You may have heard the term round and round and round she goes, where she stops, nobody knows. That's true for all of us that had polio. Somehow, and most of us will never know, we ingested it. It traveled into our bellies and up into our spinal cord. Just how far it went and the damage that it did can be vastly different. This is what most of us, particularly here in the United States, think polio looks like. Here's another polio truth. Sadly, this is what polio looks like today. And polio also looks like this. The last outbreak of wild polio in the United States was 1979. That means that not more than the 500,000 polio survivors in the US are on Medicare. In addition, legal immigration, adoption, and very rare occurrences of the vaccine-derived polio has resulted in there being very young survivors right here in the United States, right here in Pennsylvania. What makes matters worse is that as a result of the long-haul effects of this terrible disease, polio attacks us not once, but twice. That's why it stinks. These long-haul effects, called Post-Polio Syndrome or PPS, happens to the vast majority of survivors, regardless of whether or not we had paralytic or non-paralytic polio. As you read the description of these symptoms, you're probably thinking that happens to lots of people with lots of things. You're right. That's why PPS is always a diagnosis of exclusion and can be very difficult to diagnose. We are all the same in survival, yet we're all very different. The 4 survivors on our team are the clearest example of that. Now, I'm going to be very honest here. I struggle doing this presentation live. Joe was partially paralyzed from the waist down at age 5. He spent 2 years, yes, 2 years in the hospital. Joe always had a walking limitation that required crutches and bracing. He married, had a long career in the printing business, was forced to retire early, and now, with PPS, Joe is completely dependent upon double braces and crutches, struggles to manage chronic shoulder pain on a daily basis, and spends more and more time in his power chair. Joe speaks to Rotary clubs all over Pittsburgh. Deb was paralyzed on her right side at age 5. She spent 6 months in the hospital, 100 miles from her home. During her first 6 weeks there, her parents were only allowed to come on Saturdays. They drove 100 miles. They stood in the parking lot. Their paralyzed little girl stood in a window and waved with the only arm that she had. They did that for a few minutes. Her parents turned around and drove home. Deb is still completely paralyzed on her upper right side. She married, she raised 4 children, and worked outside the home. Now, with post-polio syndrome, Deb has developed lower right side weakness, struggles to manage chronic pain, requires the use of a brace, a cane, and a power chair for any distance walking. Deb speaks to Rotary clubs all over central Pennsylvania. Jim was completely paralyzed from the neck down at age 2. And those of you that have seen us at the race, Jim's my buddy. He's my brother that's always there with me. His parents took him to the hospital only to be told that the hospital was full and they needed to care for their paralyzed toddler in their quarantined home. Now imagine this. Your baby boy wakes up totally paralyzed from the neck down. You put him in the car, you take him to the hospital's full, take him home. They hammered a quarantine sign on their door and his mother did the best they could. Although Jim always had a walking limitation, he married, had a wonderful career, and spent 50 years volunteering with the local fire department. Now, forced to retire early, Jim is completely wheelchair dependent. I had what was called the summer grip or the summer flu at age 2. I only had a mild flu-like symptoms and I never was hospitalized. I recovered on my own with inside of a week. I did have a slight physical drop foot. I was never diagnosed as ever even having had polio. My gradual muscle weakness and significant reactions to anesthesia were very evident as a young adult. After a very long journey of misdiagnosis and undiagnosis, a specialist found the damage of what was proof of an old polio in my leg. The late effects of polio have put me in a leg brace. I require a cane for stability. I struggle to manage chronic pain, and I am dependent upon a wheelchair for any distance walking. We understand that just like those who suffer today from having to hide their true selves, polio survivors were taught not to speak of it. It was over, it was done. All of this happened because the miracle of the Salk vaccine came too late for us. We often feel very much isolated and alone. We encourage polio survivors and our caregivers to understand the complex issue of both the physical and the psychological symptoms of post-polio syndrome so that we can once again become independent. Polio survivors can look like this, sad and alone like the left side of the screen, or with proper care and assistive devices, we can look like those on the right side. If we showed you an x-ray of the spine on the man wearing the End Polio Now shirt, you would wonder how he even gets out of bed in the morning. John has had outstanding rehabilitative care, continually learns about post-polio syndrome. That's him throwing out the first pitch at a Rotary night at the Philly Stadium from his power chair. We love helping survivors realize they can go from the left to the right side of the screen. We are not alone. And a lot of that has to do with Rotary. This leads us to our next critical polio truth. We can't, as Rotarians, forget the survivors. Once zero happens, and there's not a doubt in our minds that it will happen, because of post-polio syndrome, it's going to take a full generation for the disabling effects of the polio virus to be completely gone. These photos explain why. As young teenagers, these two boys are forced to crawl on the ground. We'll never know the truth, but statistically, they had polio much younger. Post-polio syndrome for these two young men will be physically devastating. This photo breaks our hearts. Notice the boys on the left who are teasing and making fun of him. He is lonely, afraid, and isolated, all because of the effects of a vaccine-preventable disease. Post-polio syndrome will be a heartbreaking reminder of these painful memories. Let's talk about the vaccines. In full disclosure, that is my granddaughter on the left. The IPV, the inactivated polio vaccine, is often known as the Salk vaccine. It is the only vaccine to be given in the United States since 2000. The OPV, the oral polio vaccine, is often known as the Sabin vaccine. It is the most effective means of delivering the vaccine in underdeveloped countries, as those precious drops can be transported to rural, hard-to-reach areas and safely delivered by non-healthcare professionals. So if wild polio was eradicated in the US in 1979, why are we still giving children the vaccine? This is why. Here is the reality we face in our global world. These diseases and more are only a plane ride away. Wild polio has not been eradicated. Due to the extraordinary efforts of Rotary and their partners, only type 1 wild polio virus remains. We can't stop now. COVID-19 has created challenges all over the US and abroad. Even so, the work has not stopped. Thanks to the Plus in Polio Plus and the infrastructure that is now in place, there was only a temporary pause in the polio eradication campaigns that are critical in Afghanistan and Pakistan. With masks on their faces and sanitizer in their pockets, an immunization team makes their way through towns, knocking on one door after another. When there is a child to be vaccinated, they all stand at a safe distance from each other. They remain compliant with COVID-19 safety measures to make sure the dual message of the necessary fight against both polio and COVID-19 reaches home. Vaccinators say that since the resumption of immunization campaigns in Pakistan, parents are more enthusiastic to ensure their children are vaccinated. Even with the horrible current conflict in Afghanistan, we can answer the call. We strongly believe that the delivery of healthcare, including polio vaccination, is essential to prevent disease. We will do everything in our power to continue this critical work. The entire world celebrated just 1 year ago when the continent of Africa was certified as being free of the wild polio virus. Even as we face the realities of another devastating virus, with only type 1 wild polio remaining, we are seeing something that is truly positive in a world of fear and uncertainty. But we still have work to do. We can easily connect the fear of contracting polio to the fear we've been experiencing with COVID-19. The worries that we have for our family and friends are fears that we share every day as we wait and pray for the vast majority of us to be vaccinated. The memories that are reemerging of this fear and isolation is troubling at best to the permanently disabled polio survivors all over the United States and abroad. Our compassion for those who are experiencing the long-term effects of COVID-19 is real, and it comes from our hearts. We are all looking forward to this crisis lifting. Even in the grip of this terrible new virus, we are engaged in our commitment to encourage parents to vaccinate their children for the many childhood diseases that are once again threatening to return due to lack of regular childhood vaccines during the pandemic. Vaccination for smallpox is no longer necessary. It was eradicated in 1980. Thanks to the passion and the raw determination of Rotarians and their partners in the GPEI, polio is very close to being the second disease in history to have that marvelous distinction. Even with COVID-19, the message has remained very clear. Our message is about the truth.
We are survivors who want to help parents understand the pain and disability can, without question, last a lifetime.
As Rotarians working diligently since 1985 to eradicate this disease, we have seen firsthand the beauty of vaccines. There have been only 2 reported cases of the wild polio virus in the world as of yesterday. Thanks to an emergency authorization by the World Health Organization, the new oral polio vaccine, OPV2, is being widely distributed even in the midst of this pandemic. We can answer this call. To quote Michael McGovern, we have never been closer to eradicating polio in Afghanistan. We will continue to work with the Afghani people and our partners to finish what we began over 35 years ago. No one has quit. By working together, we are becoming a part of the solution as we celebrate science. Vaccines work. Polio survivors all over the world are truly grateful for your ongoing support of this effort. There has never been a better year or a more important year to support the race to zero. You guys are amazing. You're always there. And this is personal for polio survivors all over the world. Our gratitude is beyond anything we can describe. Now we hope you bring it on. We hope you have questions.
Does anyone in the audience have questions for Carol? Anyone on Zoom have questions for Carol? Are there any in the chat?
I didn't look in the chat.
I don't see any in the chat, Carol. I
No.
don't see any. Really, no questions?
Oh, come on.
Are we still giving? Do we do anything with polio vaccines here in the United States, or don't we have to anymore?
All right, I missed that.
Do we still give polio vaccines to anyone here in the United States?
Yes, and our children in the United States, children are vaccinated actually 4 times. Under the age of 2, they're vaccinated 3 times, and then at 4, they get a booster. And the reason for that is because until the disease is eradicated, children must be vaccinated.
It seems that Pakistan and Afghanistan are difficult places to eradicate polio. Any idea why that's the case?
I think you asked when it's going to happen.
Why is it so difficult to end polio in Afghanistan and Pakistan? Obviously,
It is cultural. It is territorial. It's a whole lot of problems. What the eradication campaigns are going through in those 2 countries is beyond anything I've been able to even grasp. The terrain, the culture, women not being allowed to go door to door. What the GPEI has done with this infrastructure is positively magnificent. They don't go in and say, okay, we're in charge. Your community is now ours. That's not what happens. They go in, Rotary Foundation goes in and says, we want to work with the community leaders. We want to work with the religious leaders. We want to work together to eradicate this disease, to vaccinate your children. And what happens is the local community leaders organize and they go door to door. That's happened all over the world. It started in the Philippines. It's how Africa is now. By the way, Kenya is highly vaccinated for COVID-19 because of the infrastructure that was created by the GPEI. Well, that infrastructure in Afghanistan and Pakistan has been extremely difficult to create because of the cultural differences and the terrain. And that's a problem. And that's why it's been so difficult. Women have risked their lives to join the movement. Now, when a woman knocks on a door, the mother is more likely to listen. But the cultural issues are such that women are not allowed to participate. And when they do, if the husband is home, he may not answer the door because she's a woman. It's been very difficult. Does that help answer the question?
Anybody else have any Joe, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
One question. Is it only children that get vaccinated or also adults, or can you only get it as a child? I don't really know much about
No,
it.
my father-in-law got it when he was in the service during World War II. No, children, you get vaccinated as a child and then it protects you for life. Now, but on the other hand, I'm not going to, but should I or you travel to Afghanistan, you would want to get a booster as an adult. But no, that's what you do. You're vaccinated. Mostly children get it. It was a disease of children. But you could get it up until your, I don't know, mid-20s is the oldest I've ever heard of getting it. But that doesn't mean that's true. Yes.
Yeah, so, oh, I've got a question. So you were mentioning a polio. You said you had a polio in your leg. I'm not understanding that.
I'm a survivor.
Right.
And they found the old, okay. What happened was, in my case, and I'm not unusual, by the way, I had, and we don't understand these terms today because we've heard them, very mild, right? It was no big deal. And I was asymptomatic. And when I was about 12, I did have a significant foot drop. And my parents took me down to Temple Hospital in Philadelphia. And the doctor looked at my foot and he said, that's a polio foot. And my mother, she didn't have that. And they went through my history and she said, well, she did have the summer grip when she was 2. The doctor knew that the summer grip was actually type 2 polio. That was discovered by Albert Sabin actually in 1958. That was the last time the word was spoken in our home. It was mentioned at the doctor's office that day and it was never mentioned again. That's part of what's going on. That's part of what happened with polio. So essentially what happened was my parents blamed themselves. My parents, that culture in the US was, if your child gets polio, it's your fault. Your house was dirty. Now my symptoms from the time I was 12, 13 years old gradually were worse. I was clumsy, I was fell, I had leg pain and stuff. So when they were trying to figure out what the heck was wrong with me, a neurological specialist did a special kind of EMG in my left leg because I had that story. I had the story and I said, I remember this story when I was 12. And they did find concrete evidence of an old polio in my leg. The virus is long gone, but the evidence with the damage that it did was found in my left leg. And that's how they confirmed the diagnosis of post-polio syndrome in my case, but I'm not unusual. And now it's with COVID, how we hear mild and asymptomatic. I'm an example of a mild asymptomatic case of polio, and it left lifelong damage.
Right. And it wasn't until years later that you had the drop foot.
Yes. It was very slight when I was little, but as I got older, 10 years, it became significant, yes.
And what, for like your father-in-law who got it when he was older, were there any effects or did it impact him?
Yeah, he always had a significant drop foot. Now, what breaks my heart is he died, let's see, in the mid-70s, and post-polio syndrome didn't even exist then. It was not a diagnosis. No one even recognized it as being true. So that's heartbreaking for us now today, because care is not good now. That's why we worry about polio survivors. Rotarians all over the world worry about care after the eradication, because care is not good in the US. Very difficult to find good care for what we need.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your story with us. I know it's very personal to you and we appreciate all you're doing. And some of us will see you on Saturday.
Yep, we'll be there. Thank you for having me.
We'll end our meeting. Please rise. Let's do the 4-way test. 4-way tests of the things we think, say, or do. First,
Is it the truth?
second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you for everyone being here today. Thank you, Carol. Thanks to those on Zoom. Go short and do good.